Welcome back to the show, my fellow podcast friends. I am your host. It is me, not the problem, but I am Evo, and you're listening to another awesome super show where I come to you and record from under the apron. I know I usually talk about wrestling and have wrestling predictions or wrestling results of the latest wrestling event. You know, the wrestling, because we talk about the wrestling on here. But I wanted to branch out a little bit, as they say. I wanted to evolve. I wanted to talk about something else. Or as Roman Reigns once says, like, I can't be doing the same thing over and over. Missionary. It's like missionary position, doing it over and over. Ugh. I had to quote him, I'm sorry. More actual wrestling content will be available soon, I promise. You know what? No, I can't promise you guys anything because I'm all over the place, basically. But we do have a premium live event coming up. So you know that predictions episode is coming up soon with my other co-host and podcast friend of the podcast, my brother, sister, brother, sister. Yeah, brother, sister, brother. Y'all know her, Sarah. But lately, I've been checking out Twitter, and it seems that there are fans out there of the freaking show that I'm like currently watching, Heels, and I want to talk to you, the Heels fans, the Heels Army, whatever you guys call yourselves. What did you think of season one and this rewatch that I'm currently doing? What are your current thoughts on season two? Now, once we get to them, do you agree or disagree with my initial reactions of the episode? Let me know. I want to talk to you. I want some other opinions on this show. I kind of want to hear from you. So if I see you talking about heels on Twitter or anywhere else, I'm going to reach out to you and see if you want to hop on this show for a rewatch. We can do it. We can make it happen. Let's go. Or email me from undertheapron@gmail.com. We will then get it. We can. I'm already slumbering over my words. We can make that happen. But right now, I want to quickly get into this episode. This is season 1, episode 6, titled House Show. It aired September 19th, 2021. It was directed by Peter Segal, who also directed episode 5. It was written by Eli Jordan, who was a co-executive producer on The Walking Dead and is now an executive producer of The Walking Dead spinoff, Dead City. Um, Synopsis of the show is the big day of Jim's baby's baptism and a new beginning for everyone in Duffy. Jack's running around town prepping and promoting the upcoming match at the fair. Guest starring on this episode are Duke David Roberts as Jim Kitchen, who you recall in episode 1 retired from wrestling because he wanted to spend more time with his wife and newborn. And Erica Pappas is his wife, Melanie Kitchen. Also making his second appearance on the show since we saw the death of his character in episode 3 is David James Elliott back as Tom Spade. Before we begin, as always, follow us on our socials to support us from Under the Apron on Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube. Apron_stories on the app that was known as Twitter. More info and the links on where you can listen or watch in the show notes. Listen to us on Apple, Spotify, or any other audio media you can listen to podcasts on. Make sure to rate us and leave us a review. And if you feel you want to do a little bit more, support us on the Patreon. Become a top tier patron, and I'll shout you out at the end of every episode. Go to patreon.com/, From Under the Apron Podcast for more information on that. The link will be in the show notes. So, a house show is a live event of a professional wrestling event produced by a major promotion that is not televised, though they can be recorded. House shows are also often scripted to make the face wrestlers win most matches, largely to send the crowd home happy. The episode opens on Willie sitting in the office looking out into the ring. The janitors are cleaning up after a long eventful night. She turns down the radio after hearing that the score for the ball game is 15-3. The Braves lost to the Cardinals for the third night in a row. She says Jack wrestled well tonight, but we hear another man's voice. Tom Spade is in his chair on his desk saying that they are losing a lot of money. They don't show the date at all or how long ago this was. So I had to do a little research on this one. Turns out the Braves lost to the Cardinals for the third time in the series on July 17th, 2006. So if this episode was aired in 2021, that means we are going back 15 years ago. So Jack might have started wrestling at a young age if Willie is recounting that he did good that night. Back to Tom, who is upset that they're losing a lot of money. Tom says he feels like a failure for losing all that money. Willie reminds him that he built an incredible place where so many people find joy. Tom says it's not how you play the game, it's the score at the end. He asks her to check the scoreboard. What does it say? It says that he effing lost. He throws the telephone at the door and it echoes as Willie snaps out of it. She takes a sip of her coffee as she stares at the desk in complete silence. Again, we see where Tom's mental health issues originated from, which was the business. Even at the first sign of a struggle, Tom was having issues with that. He's very anxious. He's very depressed, driven by his business, but the business is failing. His business is failing. She turns around to look outside the window and into the ring. Outside the ring are a big group of people sitting in a small circle with Apocalypse in the middle. It's an AA meeting. Pac is discussing having to deal with the damages of his mistake of his former life, i.e., drinking life. He says, I struggle with the realization that I have to integrate the damage of the mistakes of my former life, the drinking life, the things I said and did with the day to day good guy living and striving I got to do now without hating myself. Because the yearning and the hopeful and achieving in me knows all about his mistakes. Still got to do stuff. Can't be weighed down constantly, so I'm useless. But my tendency is to remember my mistakes or make like they weren't impactful because they don't fit the current mode of me being a good dude. Thing is, if I forget them, diminish them, if I don't use them as, fertilizer for a better me, I'm liable to revert to the same terrible impulses, same terrible outcomes. Have gratitude for your regrets. They're there to remind you to be a better version of yourself. He looks around the room and back at a list that he has in front of him to announce someone has a 1 year anniversary. He picks up the 1 year silver pin and announces it's for Diane, who's cameoed by Zoe Myers, who's been in Dance with the Dead and Anchorman 2. The legend continues. Diane gets up and gets a hug from Pac, followed by her name being chanted by everyone in the AA group. Again, we go back to Willie, who was watching from the office upstairs, takes another sip of her coffee, and sighs. She was right. Tom built a place where not only people find joy, but for people like Pac to find his place and to hold meetings such as this one. So going back to episode 2, when Pac told Rooster that Tom Spade helped him get his life on track when he had a drinking problem, this is what he meant. The camera cuts to outside the dome, spanning all over the building and right in front of the trailer where Bobby has been released from the hospital and is recovering while playing on his phone or texting Crystal, perhaps. The next scene is the next morning. Jack is looking all over the house for his keys, including the kitchen where we see a shot of the gerbil that Thomas wanted. Jack looks around the house while listening to a message from Constance Garrity of the South Georgia State Fair Commission. She wanted to talk to him about increasing ticket sales as pre-show sales are tracking behind. As Jack struggles to find his keys, Stacy rehearses her new song to play at baby Shelby's baptism. Shelby is Jimmy and Melanie Kitchen's baby from episode 2. She asked Jack to stay and hear the song, but Jack has booked a spot on Dick Valentino's podcast to hopefully boost ticket sales and has to meet with Willie, so he can't. Stacy reminds Jack to pack some church clothes, and Ace is going to be the godfather, to which Jack says he will be there. He will hear Stacy's song, and he will bite his tongue when Ace promises to reject the devil on baby Shelby's behalf. He can't cancel Dick Valentino's podcast or he will trash Jack. Stacy tells Jack to do what he has to do, just to remember that for the people that loves him, all he has to do is show up on their big days. Being on time helps, but blowing them off doesn't. Rooster meets with Charlie Gully at Big Nick's Place restaurant. Charlie says he just got a text, so he started eating without him. Rooster says he's not staying long as he has a christening to go to. Charlie says, "That's cool. The world needs more believers like him." He believes he is building an independent wrestling promotion that has no equal. He is on his way and he wants Rooster in that way. Charlie's offering Rooster a position with the FWD, Florida Wrestling Dystopia, as the DWL doesn't have much more left to live, even with Rooster being their best. Rooster asks why Charlie wants to end Jack so bad. Charlie says because he doesn't like when people talk shit about his promotion. It actually affects his promotion. Rooster thinks Charlie is after him to get Jack, but Charlie assures him that he's after Rooster because his audience will eat Rooster up. Rooster smirks and says Charlie is laying it on pretty thick. Charlie says that Rooster should be a star, but right now he isn't one. He apologizes he made this meeting so brief and thanks Rooster for coming out. So he offers Rooster a chance to wrestle in Jacksonville and drops $1,000 on the table and lets him decide if Charlie's promotion is worth the time or just bullshit. He says Jack hasn't been worth Rooster's time and it never will be. Charlie walks out of the restaurant and gives the waitress a big tip as well. Rooster looks down at the money on the table, picks it up, and walks outside, taking offense and not appreciating Charlie just dropping money on him like he's some kind of B-team stripper from Follies. He drops the money on the ground in front of Charlie, who insists that wasn't his intent and promises Rooster an opportunity of a lifetime if he joins the FWB. He tells Rooster not to whip up some imaginary disrespect thing when he came here to tell Rooster that he's great and he threw $1,000 on the table to indicate his interest. Charlie says he doesn't go to strip clubs because he respects women, so he doesn't know how they throw money around there. Rooster rolls his eyes, not believing any of this. Charlie then says if Rooster comes to work for him, he will put all of his money in a manila envelope, wrap it in a bow, and show him all loyalty to likes he has never seen before. But don't tough guy him. It doesn't take muscle to be an effective tough guy. It just takes a quick temper and a big family to back you up. And on that, the Irish, they have a massive head start. Charlie turns around to get into his car. He tells one of his assistants to pick up the money that's on the ground, and they leave. Rooster watches as they drive away while Charlie yells that he has his number. Call him. Next scene, Willie calls Jack out to South Georgia University Stadium to not only get a look at what 10,000 fans will look like, but to also discreetly retrieve SGU's alumni email list. Jack promises he'll fill the seats, but there's still the matter of Wild Bill. After his promo, they don't have a choice but to include him. However, Willie is concerned as Bill is dangerous, not to mention a drunk and pill popper and a terrible human. And now that he's down on his luck, he's come back to DWL. Tom would never take this gamble. Jack tells Willie his dad built a coliseum that was so damn expensive that he buckled. Tom left Jack holding the bag, and now he's trying to fix everything that Tom fucked up. If they're going to talk about pride and ego and all the different ways that the DWL never became what Tom wanted, why does Willie think that was? Was he a world-class allergy towards input? Jack thinks his dad's Achilles heel was more along the lines of reflexive effing readiness to wallow in self-pity anytime anyone hurt his feelings. Willie tells Jack Tom was complicated, but he was a great man. He built something out of nothing and it launched Bill. But Bill ever even acknowledged what Tom and the DWO did for him despite getting his start there. Bill could never show up for not for one night or for one exhibition to chip off just a little bit of fame for them while they struggled. Bill forgot about the DWL, but now in the midst of his well effing earned desperation, Build. He wants to help, and Jack. He wants to help Jack wants to bank on and rely on Wild Bill. However, Jack believes they can at least use him for business purposes. He says that Wild Bill Hancock is the only wrestler who came out of Duffy and made a name for himself, and now they can use him to build back up the league to make it what they want. What his dad would have wanted. They don't have to forgive or forget, just trying to do business, and she was the one who told Jack to ask Bill for help and take emotions out of it. Willie says Tom saw the potential in Bill as a wrestler, and she saw the potential in Bill as a person. Tom was right. She wasn't. She reminds Jack what Bill told her in episode 4, cutting promos. Bill told Willie it was probably Jack's fault Tom shot himself, which caused Willie to slap and punch him a few times. Jack says he told Ace their dad knew they were home when he shot himself, and Ace told Jack he was going to kill himself just like their dad. People say stupid shit, but they're in the business of bringing entertainment to the masses, and Bill brings a whole lot of masses to the masses. Willie tells Jack he brings a whole lot of more than that. She don't think she can handle that or will. Willie walks away, leaving Jack in the middle of the stadium with a conundrum.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa.
And I'm Dawn.
And if you've ever watched a TV show and thought to yourself, oh my god, that season finale plot twist was absolutely bonkers.
Or seen a movie and thought, wow, I need to talk to somebody about this train wreck immediately.
Then we think you'll fit right in with our podcast, I Hate It, Let's Watch It. We watch TV shows like Riverdale and Emily in Paris.
And movies like Deep Water, Killer Sofa, Rubber, and Deadly Illusions. And we give them the total rinsing they deserve.
It's basically group therapy for movie masochists. So come check us out wherever you stream podcasts.
Next scene, Bobby strolls into DWL with a wheelchair, anxious to start his physical therapy at some point. He runs into Pac and Diego, who are discussing a variety of things. Bobby tells him it's given him a lot of time to think. Pac says he's been thinking a lot also. Diego asks about if Jesus is coming back. Pac says he never thinks about that. Diego points out that his name is Apocalypse. Pac tells him he's nicknamed after the movie Apocalypse Now. His dad fought in the Vietnam and the apocalypse itself. He was a cook, so he served, but he didn't serve. Just a fat asshole of a cook and a real prick his whole life, especially when you father a kid at 58. Pac then goes to his gym bag to show the boys his new robe he got from Carol Spade, the mom. Flashy and shiny, but the inside material, the satin-like material, hurt his nipples. Bobby says to get Blistex. Diego says that Blistex is going to leave a stain. Pac then says he was thinking he has no idea why men have nipples. Diego says he's never thought about it, but Pac says they should. It's on their body and he has no idea what they do. Bobby says this is a legit inquiry. Pac says milk aren't in them or coming out of them, so why are they there for? Diego thinks it's an evolution thing, like how you got grown-up teeth above your baby teeth awaiting the call. The conversation takes a turn when Rooster joins them and Diego says that maybe God knew that one day women would be running the workplace and there would be more stay-at-home dads, so men got nipples just in case, like a total gender revolution, but also in a case of emergency, like a famine or a plague. Both Pac and Bobby look weird at Diego like, what the hell is he talking about? Is this man high? Diego continues saying, what if all the women are out there fighting in the new Vietnam, getting their bodies blown to bits so democracy could survive like men? So democracy could survive like men used to, only now all the future men need to be home, bursting with nourishment from their nipples. Oh my god. Jail. Rooster laughs and tells them they have got to be the most brain-damaged individuals that he has ever met. He's helped, dated, and fought demented people, and if those demented people were there, they would rejoice. They would rejoice in knowing that there exists far more demented people than they are. They all share in the laugh. Of course, while looking for trivia about this episode on the IMDb page and came out short, someone did, however, put in the reason men have nipples. No joke, in case anyone is wondering, men have nipples because embryos are always female in their early stages and males only differentiate from the female prototype after a few weeks. Thank you, anonymous poster at IMDb, for your contribution. Next scene, Ace watches his old home videos of his dad coaching him while his mom records him playing flag football. Young Jack, who's being played by Jackson McCann, who's been on Stranger Things in Atlanta, tells his dad that young Ace, here played by Mason Gillett, who played a young MacGyver on the reboot series, has a cannon on him. Tom remarked that Ace is Dan Marino times two and that he had it all: strength, athleticism, good looks. He even had better footwork than Jack. Confident as hell, Jack says. Tom says that's confidence, poised and confidence. That kid got flair. Ace pauses the videos and gets a phone call from Big Jim, who asked Ace to be his daughter's godfather. Ace thinks Jim has a bad judge of character for having him be the backstop to his daughter's religious upbringing. Jim says Ace has to say a few words at the baptism, just some church words. Melanie told Jim to tell Ace a week ago, but he thinks he must have taken a lot of chair shots to the head because he forgot about it till now. All Ace has to do is say a few words off the cuff. He's a wrestler, just riff. Ace says talking shit about a wrestler is totally different than riffing in church. Jim says it's good. Jim says it's just good versus evil, crowds in the stands, dudes in funny costumes. Just don't powerbomb the pastor. Ace reluctantly agrees, as he isn't sure if he should be saying anything after what happened with Bobby. Ace finally says, number one, don't expect it to be great, and number two, go fuck yourself. Jim says he got this goddaddy, and they hang up the phone. As Ace goes downstairs to find his mom finally getting rid of his father's stuff, as it's taking up too much of Carol's space. Carol intends to donate it, but Ace doesn't want her to do that. He asks what if he wanted it, but Carol says he left everything to her, so it's her choice. Ace grabs the ties that belong to his father and is sad that his mom is doing this. Next scene, Jack arrives at the DWL to find Rooster outside the building, waiting to talk to him about his slot within the fair. But Jack asks if he can wait until the barbecue and tells Rooster that if he wants to smoke, he has to take it out round to the back. There's a jewelry convention thing going on inside the dome right now that they rented out, so it would look good if one of the faces of DWL is having a smoke. Rooster dropped a cigarette and tells Jack he was thinking about quitting anyways. Jack enters his office to find Wild Bill with his feet up on his desk. He reveals that he just came from seeing Dick Valentino as their old acquaintances. With the state fair only a month away, Bill came to tell Jack that he's all in with the DWL. The fans are blowing up his socials, and Barstool wants to promote his comeback. However, Jack doesn't want his help, as Bill never offered it to Tom when he needed it, although Bill reveals that Tom never asked for help. He couldn't accept that Bill was chosen as he wasn't. Not to mention Bill did come back when he tried to take Ace, but Jack ruined that. He thinks that the two of them could use each other to rise to the top, which is something Dick Valentino can offer. Bill recalls the one time he wrestled Dick in Atlanta and how he broke Bill's wrist in an I Quit match. However, Jack refuses to discuss the state fair any further with Bill until he hashes things over with Willie. Jack walks into the other room and finally meets up with Dick Valentino, who is played by wrestling legend, multiple time wrestling champion Mick Foley. Hey, I've met him before. Y'all gotta listen to that experience, how that went for me. It's on episode 93. I'll have it in the show notes. But when I initially saw Mick Foley show up on the screen, I popped and did the Leonardo DiCaprio point at the TV meme. I was so excited that this legend was on the show. I mean, yeah, the same about CM Punk. The But this is Mick freaking Foley we're talking about here, right? Bigger legend. You know what I mean. Dick Valentino says he loves the craftsmanship around the room and just bought some jewelry from the lady in the corner. He shows Jack a sapphire and silver pendant that he got, and Jack asks if they can record the podcast in his office. Next scene, Crystal approaches Willie outside baptism and asks what her role in the fair will be. With Crystal no longer working as Ace's valet and Bobby out on a broken leg, she wonders where that leaves her, as she feels that she's being left out, which Willie blames on Crystal for going off script. Crystal says she didn't mean for Bobby to get hurt. Willie tells Crystal she doesn't want to be Dragon Lady here because she knows women have to stick together in a rotten old world run by idiotic men. But Crystal decided she didn't like what was written for her, so she decided to change it. She lit the match. Don't be pretending you don't know how fire works, darling. But everyone knows we also know answer to Jack Spade. Willie smirks and walks inside the church, leaving Crystal to turn to her right and watches as Pac, Rooster, and Diego help Bobby out of the truck. Crystal feels even worse and enters the church. Jack appears as a guest on Dick Valentino's podcast, during which they discuss Wild Bill's return and how he personally called out Jack and Ace.
Let's talk about this main event. Appears to my eyes like Wild Bill is back in the mix.
That has yet to be decided.
I think his actions in the ring decided it, Jack. Folks around here, they're invested.
He laid down some pretty wild attacks, and Jack Spade doesn't let fighting words go unanswered.
He used some of those fighting words against your brother, Ace Spade, as well. So Ace, he's got to be in the main event.
It's all still percolating.
Percolating? What the hell are we promoting here, Jack? Seems to me like there's a beef brewing between you brothers.
I'm sure you remember from your wrestling days, Dick, that when you've had the belts as long as I have, or you did, people are going to attack you from all angles, even your own kin, which is what's going to make this state fair so darn explosive.
Depending on who's in it. The problem is, I can't tell my listeners, Dick Valentino's listeners, who's in the main event. It seems to me neither can you.
I got the belt. You can tell in my minute.
This past fall, Jack, your promotion gained a level of internet infamy when you defeated your brother Ace in 15 seconds with a hold that appeared to these eyes to be really painful. And then Ace burst into tears. Now, your daddy, King Spade, was known around these parts as a great wrestler, but he also had a tenuous grasp on his composure, and that brought with it a great sense of real danger to the ring. Come clean with me, Jack. You got some of your old man's anger?
I thought we were here to talk about the future of the DWL.
We got an hour, Jack. We'll get there. Now, this is just me, just thinking out loud. Remembering your father. Well, he was, I'm just gonna say it. Your father, Tom, he was one tough son bitch, Jack. Always had to have things his way. So when I get the news that your father kills himself...
I'm not fucking talking about that. My apologies for cussing.
It's okay, Jack. It's a podcast. You ever listen to my podcast?
I never miss it.
It's called No Questions Barred for a reason, because I use my platform to get people to care. They support me because I tell them the truth about this business we all love, but also about its cost. Your father's death and how it made you feel, that's interesting to my listeners.
It's not interesting to me.
Movies and feelings. Pop, pop. Bring Your Own Popcorn is a podcast that dives into people and the movies who love them. Let us preach to your choir or stoke your ire as we spiral down memory lane with cult classics, Jurassics, and other genres that rhyme with traffic. What we lack in education, we make up for with comedy, compassion, and camaraderie. I'm your host, Mixtape Majesty, inviting you to join me and an assortment of wonderful guests on fine podcast apps everywhere. Bring your own popcorn.
Stacy performs her song at baby Shelby's baptism. I'm going to play a little clip of it.
This is my song for you. This is my this song, little one. This song is for beginnings. You don't know much, but you'll get there soon.
I don't remember if I said this on the first episode of Heels, but she is an amazing singer. Add to the fact that she's been in musicals such as Matilda, where she played Miss Honey, the main character on Waitress, Jessie Mueller, and Elphaba, in the first national tour of Wicked in 2013. Yeah, she's an amazing singer. Back to the show. Jack is not in attendance as promised because he's stuck on the road due to an accident and can't move forward. Ace then goes up to say a few words. He and Jim have known each other since grade school, more specifically, detention. They've been inseparable ever since they were kids, and now Mel and Jim are baptizing their own kid. Baptism is a lifelong journey, a winding road of mistakes making and learning and growing. You know, if you're a lot like this congregation, and especially him, you're going to stumble, you're going to get scuffed up, and you're going to wrestle with some demons. Some real, some imagined, some put upon you, and some you put upon yourself. He looks around the congregation, Crystal nodding, the boy sitting in one row watching Ace, who turns to his goddaughter and says, Shelby, this is the start of your story. A story that says you gotta inherit a lot of original bias stuff, but we washed that off today. Know that if you make a mistake, it don't mean you can't be turning the page, revising your story, saying you're sorry, and starting anew. I mean, that's what life is about, right? Writing a story we could all be a part of, even if it's got some bad or boring chapters in it. Like it or not, you're part of the Buffy Duffy story now, the Duffy family. I can't wait to watch you grow up. He looks back at everyone. Folks, I present to you Shelby Warren Kitchen. Everyone claps their hands to this wholesome moment, at which point Jack finally arrives and claps along as well. We go from the church to the kitchen's house with everyone celebrating the big day by getting food from the grill. Thomas and the other kids playing cornhole, and Pac being told that he had a great share the other night at AA. Big Jim thanks Ace for a job well done during the baptism. He then inquires about Bobby, who Ace has yet to apologize to. I don't know. Like, I'd rather be told sorry by the guy who, like, broke my leg. Pretty much. In the living room, Crystal blames herself for Bobby's broken leg, as she knowingly provoked Ace, who is volatile. She apologized to Bobby, but he doesn't blame her as he knew the risk of getting in the ring. He then says that she should be a wrestler, assuming she bulks up. While Jack and Willie may not think so, Bobby does, who tells her, My mom always says you're under no obligation to accept someone else's assessment of you. Crystal laughs and she goes to grab Bobby another beer. Jack approaches Stacy and Pastor Henry in the front yard of the barbecue. Pastor Henry is played by Spencer Garrett, who is currently on Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty, which is a show about a look back at the professional and personal lives of the 1980s Lakers. Spencer plays Chick Hearns, who was a sportcaster and the play-by-play announcer from the Lakers and the NBA for 41 years. Jack tells Pastor that was a lovely sermon he told earlier. Stacy adds in a little sass of her own, knowing that he came late for the ceremony, by asking Jack what part did he enjoy most. Pastor comments that it had to be Stacy's song, although Jack admits he heard it was great and apologizes for being late as he had business to attend to. Stacy once again digs it in. The DWL never sleeps. Pastor and Jack talk about the state fair and how exciting it's going to be for them for the brand exposure. Stacy gets frustrated with Jack after having shown up late to the baptism and excuses herself. Ace notices Bobby struggling to get a plate of food and rushes over to assist. He takes this moment to apologize for breaking his leg. Oh, finally. Finally, Couldn't do it at church. Couldn't do it earlier. Gotta wait until the right moment when I'm struggling with my food so he can come apologize to me for breaking my leg. Great. Bobby forgives him without a second thought, though. Crystal joins them and volunteers to help Bobby to the table. The awkwardness in that small scene after Ace apologizes to Bobby and Bobby tells Ace not to worry about it. The new day, he really is going for the affirmation that shit can happen. But hey, you can't do shit about it. It's the next day. He's up. And then Crystal shows up and they all stand there quietly for a few seconds until Crystal looks down at the plate Ace is carrying and she says, "That's a lot of ranch." And it's kind of like, "What are you doing, Ace? That's a lot of ranch." But then Ace says, "It's for Bobby, who says he loves ranch." And suddenly Crystal thinks it's cute. She grabs the plate from Ace and takes Bobby to the table while Ace just awkwardly walks away. Rooster approaches Jack about potentially throwing him in the main event for the fair. But when Jack turns him down yet again, Rooster simply sees himself out. Jack says it seems to him we keep having the same conversation. Rooster responds with, "It seems the same, but each time it's a little different." And Rooster is right. Rooster wants to be seen, so he asks for a push. Next time you see Rooster and Jack talking, he wants to know if Jack knows his name. This time he just wants to know what the situation is going to be at the state fair. Who's in the main event because Jack hasn't told anybody that the W Championship is going to be the headlining. So Rooster just wants to know what his spot's going to be like. But each night that Rooster comes to talk about it, Jack has something on his mind, whether it be his brother, the state fair, or the podcast that ended up being shitty and him showing up late to the baptism. Another wholesome moment is everyone in the backyard getting along. Willie's husband, Ted, drinking a beer and playing cornhole against Pac, Ace, Diego, and Crystal, while Bobby doing play-by-play. Ted tells them as they were growing up and playing real sports, he was drinking and playing cornhole. As the night comes to an end, Melanie sees the guests out, though Crystal stays behind to play with baby Shelby, and Ace stays to chat with Jim, who is happy with the life he's made for himself. While he misses the guys, he doesn't miss wrestling. Ace then asks to hold the child, smiling with baby Shelby in hand. The Spades return home, and Stacy takes Thomas out back to catch fireflies for his school project, but Jack stays inside consumed with work. While Stacy's out in the backyard helping Thomas catch the fireflies, she looks at the window in her kitchen and is upset Jack is inside on his phone working on wrestling stuff rather than enjoying what they're doing. On the way to her car, Crystal apologizes to Ace for going off script during the match, and Ace apologizes for how he treated her. Too late for that, buddy. As they had a real good thing going. I don't think they did. Crystal just nods and drives away, leaving alone by his car. As Willie's closing up at the WO, Wild Bill comes by to apologize for what he said to her. She advises him to take a good look at himself. A long time ago, when he was still in Duffy and they were together, he was more open to being kind, but he's changed since then. When Willie doesn't accept his halfway apology, he follows her out and actually apologizes. He then reveals that he was kind back then because he loved her. But then one day, she just dropped him, and it crushed him. She explains that Tom was being scouted and asked her to be his valet, which she accepted, as she thought it was a better bet with being Tom's valet than Wild Bill's. Willie apologizes for hurting him long ago, and for that, she's sorry, but she thought that allowing him to stay at her house would make up for it and show that she was there for him as a friend. But her daughter had nothing to do with what Willie ever did, which is why Bill shouldn't have said what he said and is apologizing. Next scene, Rooster gives Gully a call. When he doesn't answer, he simply leaves a message saying he's in. Back at home at Jack's place, Jack apologized for missing Stacy's song. She asked about work, which isn't going well as it could, so Jack is considering bringing Bill on, which Stacy is wary of, as she doesn't like what he brings out of people. However, Jack doesn't have many options as he still needs to sell the State Fair pre-show ticket. Stacy tells Jack that she is tired of being ignored between the squirrels in the attic, Shelby's christening, and the gerbil she asked Jack not to get for Thomas that he got anyway. She's starting to feel like she's being ignored. Stacy just wants part of their life proceedings towards something unified. She feels as though she needs to sing something more in life. When they're doing stuff as a family, she knows who she is, but lately she feels like she's just observing. While she appreciates all he does to support the family, she thinks she's made out to be more than just a spectator. She thinks she Jack tells her that she's kind and remarkable. However, she simply doesn't feel like she's flourished in life. Moving on to Thomas, Stacy explains that he and Jack need to spend more time together. They need more than just an exhausted and depleted Jack. Ace brings a couple garbage bags filled with his dad's stuff up to his room and then begins playing the home video of his father speaking so proudly of him and his expectations for him to go to the NFL, believing that young Ace was destined for greatness. The camera pans from the TV playing the old footage to Ace, who is saddened by those words, and the show ends right here.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the number one way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening!
What is up? This is Fuck It, Let's Talk with your host, Christine. Monthly, I'll be here to discuss the ups and woes of parenting and explore topics with other parents, or not parents, in hopes of finding a little sanity. Just a warning, the keyword here is puke. Eventually you'll get it. So come join me where we explore honest takes on parenting and life. Don't forget to follow on Spotify or subscribe wherever else the podcast is available. Be sure to check out the polls on Anchor, where you can also show some support if it tickles your fancy. And if you want more, head on over to the newsletter, F It Let's Talk on WordPress. I look forward to chatting with you. Fuck it. Let's talk.
Initial reaction. So, the first time I watched this episode, after the whole setup of the episode before that, I was expecting backlash on Ace for what he did to Bobby, but I guess everyone just keeps on living their life. The baptism felt wholesome, especially given that you hated Ace the last episode, and this one you feel for him. And he's still a douchebag for what he did and sort of makes up for it when he apologizes to Bobby without any excuses. We also see that Ace and Crystal are truly now broken up, as she'd rather be helping Bobby than dealing with Ace, which she apologizes for being such a douchebag to her as well. The next apology is from Wild Bill to Willie, who in turn apologizes to him for leaving him to be Tom Spade's manager. And that's where all the anger comes from. Jack asking Bill why he didn't come back to help his dad, when in reality he wanted nothing to do with the guy that stole his girl, because he thought he was the one that was going to make it big. Wild Bill's anger stemmed from those of what Tom Spade caused, but he apologized to Willie, about what he said about his daughter, which in reality she wasn't part of that war. Ace is still going through a lot of mental anguish with his father being gone. His dad believed in him and his career, and then his mom wants to throw everything away because she's hurting and doesn't want that memory. Maybe that's more to that. Takata Kenny. And finally, we get to the disconnection of the spade that I've been talking about since the first episode. Jack pulls out of his focus on the DWL rather than his family, and Stacy is upset that Jack ignored everything she says and thinks he doesn't care about her when she told her about the squirrels, the christening, and the gerbil, plus the whole rather be working while they're out catching fireflies. Stacy wants Jack to focus on them a bit rather than him being the whole wrestling 24/7. She just wants to be a part of a thing. It was a lot to take in from everyone's perspective and how they fit into the story or how they fit into Jack's. We're going to have to see what Jack thinks of Rooster leaving and going to the other side while more stuff being put on his plate, like the state fair, his wife, the WL, and Wild Bill. All in all, that was a good episode. There's 2 episodes left for season 1, and then I'm going straight to season 2, so I can't wait to get to them. Hope you all enjoyed this episode about heels. Um, as always, follow us on our socials to support us from Under the Apron on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, the Threads, Apron_stories on the, I think that's called X. I don't know. Twitter. I'm calling it Twitter still. More info on the links where you can listen or watch in any of the show notes. Listen to us on Apple, Spotify, or any audio media you can listen to podcasts on. Make sure to rate us and leave us a review. And if you feel you want to do a little bit more, go to patreon.com/From Under the Apron podcast. Support us on the Patreon. Become a top tier patron and get patron privileges. And I will shout you out at the end of every episode. Just like Babel B, Meta Smiling, Stephanie M, Chanel from the Nerd in Texas podcast, one of my podcast colleagues, I guess you could say. Straight up love for all her episodes. Y'all should check her out. Cloudy November from the Nose Ascendant podcast. I'll have those 2 podcast links in the show notes so y'all can check them out as well. I love them. They're awesome. They're amazing. Dark Fate Creations. We're going to come out with another commercial pretty soon here. Definitely Dark Fate Creations. Just check it out, darkfatecreations.com. They have candles. They have beautiful scented candles. You'll love them. Seizure Queen, Purple Haze 94, Brenda Lamore 1, Black Heart Beauty, OMG as Ren, Hannah Time, Messenger Stupidity, DJ Aaron, The Wee Daddy, Rabbit Orlando, Collector of All Things Sentimental, Philly Millie, Turtle Boy Flores, Happy Chic, Celestial Moon Goddess, Full Heart Earth, Swifty Ever After, Lust for Life, Scorpion Deathlock, Jabroni Baloney, Lucid Dream 619, Hey, it's Yuzu, Endless Demo, Two Hearts Intertwined, I Am Carrot, The Last Jedi, Lisa's Journey, Molnir's Ruin, Lily Linguini, The Mufia, shout out to The Mufia, yeah, Mary the Lamb, The Life of Nye, Evie Nightstar, Durian Son of Durian, Brandon's Wife Forever, 88, Messy Bun Maggie, Ariel Lauren, Stalas the King, Jarbonista, Ivan Campo Music, have you heard her music yet, Ivan Campo? Did you hear that? Did you hear the music? Because it was awesome. So if you haven't heard the music, I'm going to leave show notes again. Leave that link in the show notes. Hell yeah. Intrusive Thoughts, V-Nice88, and Stoner Snowflake. Thank you guys for supporting the podcast. Patreon.com/From Under the Apron podcast. Get your name shouted out. Support the podcast. Check out the show notes for links to other podcast shows that you heard on this episode. Send us a message of your favorite wrestling stories, questions, comments, ratings, or requests at our email. It is FromUnderTheApron@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, joining the live, staying the gift, and being a huge part of this community. Tell your friends. Join us next time for more stories, movies, and TV show reviews, as well as wrestling-related stories when we come to you from Under the Apron. Clutch your pearls.